welcome to Alaska EdVenture, hosted by Dr. Meinert, Superintendent of the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. This award-winning podcast is your gateway to the heart of Alaska's educational landscape. In each episode, we'll explore the unique perspectives of guests who are shaping education in the last frontier. Join us on Alaska EdVenture as we share the insights and inspirations found in Alaska's K-12 classrooms.
Welcome back to the Alaska EdVenture podcast. This is Dr. Luke Meinert, Superintendent of the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. And I am incredibly excited to have this podcast today. It's been 2 years in the making with two very special people in terms of the communications operations for the school district. So I'd love Rebecca and Josh to introduce themselves, and we'll hop into the podcast.
My name is Rebecca Hurbi. I'm the Executive Director of Communications. I've been with the district for over 10 years now, and I've got about 16 years or so of experience in communications.
My name is Joshua DuVall. I work as the Director of Communications with Ms. Hurbi, and I just celebrated 3 years actually with the school district on, I think, March 22nd. And I've been doing communications maybe around 10 years now. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. Josh is one of the masterminds behind the podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I always enjoy kind of seeing the behind the scenes folks come in front of the camera and talk a little bit about what they do. A lot of what you do on the day to day, I feel like, is a bit of a mystery to folks, and you're a very integral part of the success of our school district. And so let's start off with the mad skills that you guys have. Why the school district? I mean, I feel like you could go work for pretty much anybody. A lot of organizations need quality communications folks. So why work for the school district?
Well, before I was at the school district, I was working at UAF. I was actually was then the School of Management. So I have a degree in English, which horrified my father. He was like, oh my gosh, how are you going to be able to get a real job? But it turns out
it is a real job.
Yeah, it turns out like a lot of people or a lot of organizations need help with communications. Mm-hmm. And I discovered that working kind of like in the business world, like, oh no, they do need, I have a place. So I started off working, in higher ed, and I like working for places where like you spend so much of your time at your job. And so I want those hours to go towards something meaningful, if at all possible. And so after I got my MBA, I was looking at kind of the opportunities that are out there, and there was a job at the school district. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of like what I'm doing now. Like I'm in education. That's in education. I can figure this out. And I'm from Fairbanks. So, went to Weller, Tanana, and Lathrop. So it'd be still working for my community, and then started at the school district, and I was like, oh, this is very different from higher ed, actually. K-12 is much different. Yeah, that's how I started. I remember starting like over 10 years ago, and I was like, I just have to get through the first year, and somehow it's been over 10, and I don't really know how that happened, but it's
Time
been an
flies
adventure.
when you're having fun.
Yeah, something like that.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, for me, started like 10 years ago in communications with like graphic design and working with my father-in-law in the print business, and kind of learned how to do all the design work and marketing through there, and then started getting into communications more just with photography, videography, customer service, and then I started working at Doyon and learned a lot more there as well. But for me, it's pretty cool because like Rebecca, I also was in the school district, so I came up here and went to Ben Austin Middle and then high school and graduated from Ben Austin. So it's special to kind of take all the skills I've developed over the time, 10 years or so, and put that back into the same district that helped prepare me for life. And so I think that's pretty neat. It's always fun to see some of the teachers that I had in high school, and now I'm working with them. So that's pretty interesting too, to see that. And I'm always like, okay, Ms. Devon, I really hope you don't remember my math scores because I was not very good at math. But yeah, it's pretty neat to also kind of work with the same teachers and staff that I grew up with and taught me. And so I think that's a pretty unique situation to be in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, I feel like you have one of those special jobs. A lot of times we go in and we talk to, elementary and middle school students like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a huge thing right now is I want to be a YouTuber, or I want to be a content creator. And a lot of that is actually kind of the job that you do in terms of content creation. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly evolving too. Like I kind of got into it just as a hobby and then started doing it as a profession a few years ago, but it's constantly evolving. Like now people can just do great like videos just through their phone. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of just getting the practice in. So like I love going out to the schools, and that's what a lot of my job is, just kind of the content creation and getting out to the schools and events and capturing those moments. And And so it's really just, I think, being out there. You don't have to have fancy camera gear or anything like that, but just being there and capture the moments with your phones, whatever it might be. Um, and with the platforms that we have, like YouTube and social media, like it's so easy to just capture those moments with what you do have, like a phone or a camera, and then put it out to the world to see. And that it's always cool to see like how far the reach of things that you do can go too. Like we just did a quick little Iditarod video. Thousands of our students over at the Iditarod last month, and I just did like a 30-second little video, and that's gotten like almost 300,000 views now. So pretty cool to see like just something simple like that, and it can get a far reach. So pretty fun to take those skills and to make it into something like where you can get a lot of connection where you wouldn't normally have.
And that world has changed so much. And Rebecca, with your long tenure in the district, I'm curious, what are some changes you've seen in the way that the communications team approaches communications for the school district?
I mean, when I first started, it was in the middle of changing. It was going from more print-based to more digital. So, I mean, where this podcast studio currently is in one of the offices where the print shop was located. So there was a print shop for the school district so they used to print materials, like curriculum materials. They would print letters that would go home. I mean, it used to be like for the school district to communicate with families, they would have to physically print things and either mail them or send them home with kids, or get it in the news Meinert, get it in the paper, get it on radio. And then when I started, we had those digital platforms where we could reach our people directly. We could reach our students and our families directly and our staff. And that's just continued to grow and to shift. And so now, like if we want to, either one of us could like pull out our phone and text, about 17,000 plus contacts between our families and our staff. So we can reach our families and our staff immediately, and we can like help make sure we can help craft the message instead of relying on others and hoping that information is correct and accurate. So it's definitely been a big shift since I've been here, and I feel like we're starting to. So we kind of went hard into the more digital as that has shifted, and I think we're seeing like a swing back to somewhere in the middle of like there is a place for those like print media and sending things home, like physical things home that either get mailed or go home with kids, or that are displayed in schools or whatever. It's even though it's in some ways it's easier to reach people, but in other ways it's more difficult because there used to be like just a few channels, and now we have social media, which has many platforms just under social media. You've got email, you've got texting, you have apps, you've got still like the newspaper, radio, TV, YouTube, Spotify. Like there's a lot of different platforms out there, and so you have to know where your people are, where your stakeholders are, and what's the best way to reach them with the information you have.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a competition for time and energy and reaching people, and I know sometimes I often have missed texts that I never really get back to, and I apologize to those that text me and I don't get right back to them, but if my son or daughter comes home, with a physical thing, is like, hey, here's this field trip or here's this event coming up, oftentimes that'll grab my attention right away. And so I do think there's a bit of a shift back. I think, having all of the digital content is really important, but also recognizing that print plays a part in our communication strategies. I would love to do more. One of the hard things about print communications is it can be rather costly. Yeah. I remember earlier, prior to the year, I think we were pricing out welcome back postcards for all of our families. And I'm like, oh, this would be awesome if we do this. And then we got the bill back and we're like, whoa, that is like thousands and thousands of dollars just to do that one piece of print mailing. And so we do have to be pretty cautious in terms of the resources we put forward in print. But a balanced approach that I think is relevant.
And the budget piece is an important one because we're not just doing digital because it's a really effective way to reach people, but part of the reason there's less print is just because it is more expensive. So when we do use it, it needs to be super strategic and how we decide to use these materials.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had an intern recently, and we were hoping to get him on the podcast. It didn't work out, but if we have students in school today, especially our high school students that think they might want to go into communications, what are maybe some things that they should be focusing on now, and maybe some tips and tricks to get to positions that you currently have?
If you have an interest in photography or art, I think that's just a great way to start learning how to use technology and integrate it into your daily life. And then if you're on social media at all, like just getting on there and sharing what you're creating. So either it's a podcast, starting up a podcast, or if it's just you want to share your photos with the world, that's a great opportunity as well. For me, like I started out with graphic design and it kind of just advanced and advanced from there. And I had kind of an artsy background. I'm more of a musical person as well. So like the creative side of me was drawn to getting into photography and arts. And so if that's also you, I feel like that's a great passion and interest that leads right into communications as well. As far as like the more content producing side, maybe not the strategic planning side, which Rebecca is really good at, but the content creation side of things is, I feel like that's a really good direction to take.
And I started with, so before School of Management, I worked for the University of Alaska Press as a student worker and then as like a temporary worker. So I actually did start with like graphic design. So I learned InDesign and laying out books and everything. I do also, so I come from a graphic design background as well. I went more into like, I did a lot of flyers and like those sort of things at School of Management. So if you are a student and you are interested in like making things, like I like making things, Canva is a free tool that's great. So I learned on InDesign, but now you can go on Canva and just like,
so easy.
it's so easy and it's great to get started. You can learn a lot. I did do some classes. There were some classes at the time, like I did a photography class. I've done a videography class, but there's a ton of resources. That's on YouTube. Like if you want to learn about graphic design, if you want to learn like how to set up the composition of a shot, there's tons of free resources out there. And then I also come from, like I said, I have an English degree. I wanted when I was in high school, I was like, I'm going to be in publishing. Like I was very interested in that writing side of things. So that's something that, depending on communications has a lot of different facets to it. So depending on kind of what you're interested in, there's probably a place for you. So if you like photography, if you like videography, if you like social media, but if you're also just a really strong writer, that can be applied to many things. So there's an aspect to communication of telling the story. And so how do you tell the story of your organization and how do you tell the story of the people that work there and the story of the students in a way that's engaging and meaningful and gets at like the truth of what happens in our schools on a day-to-day basis. And that's one of the pieces that I really enjoy is like I like making things and I like being able to tell people's stories, both individual people, but then also on the organizational level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you guys both have huge jobs. You have the day-to-day communications of just things that are happening, events, highlighting those types of things. And then there's some project-based communications like our school consolidations this year. Both of you played a huge role in that and ensuring that was all packaged well and communicated appropriately to our families and community. And then one that people don't think of oftentimes is emergency communications. And you also help us out with that. What does that typically look like?
So when something happens at a school, and most often when something happens, like we have our sit tights where like the class continues, learning continues, but the classrooms, everyone stays, the students stay in their classrooms. And often it's because for example, a student might be having a medical emergency in the hall, or there might be something going on that requires some privacy. And so the school will go into like a sit tight for the privacy of those people, and then the students will be released. And that is fairly common. I think that's probably one of the more common things that happens, but it can be more serious than that depending on what's going on. But anything that affects like kind of a school-wide level, the principal and school administration are dealing with whatever situation is happening. They don't have time to be messaging to parents about what's going on. So that's when they'll tap us in. And so we sort of take that on to free up the principals and the admin in the schools to deal with whatever situation is happening there. And so we'll help send communication out to parents and families about what's going on, because of course everyone wants to know as soon as possible, and so we try to do that in a timely manner with accurate information when we can.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, as I came down for this podcast, it's dumping snow outside, and Rebecca and I had a conversation earlier today that tomorrow morning might be an early morning for us. We often talk about 4:15, 4:30 a.m. in the morning on days that it looks like we might have to cancel school for inclement weather. And you guys are a huge part in, alerting families to school closures as well. Gone are the days I remember, I'd be listening to the radio or watching it scroll across the TV, seeing if school was canceled. Well, now with a couple touches of the button, you're able to communicate with all of our families and guardians whether or not school is canceled due to inclement weather.
Yeah.
And just trying to make sure at 5 a.m. when we're sending communication out that everything is accurate and correct, because we're going to be waking up a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
In a short we're going to be waking up a lot of people, and so we want to make sure that there's the pressure side of that of like I've gotten used to it over the years, but man, anything will make you proof check your work.
Yeah.
It's knowing that like thousands and thousands of people are going to be reading it and possibly cranky about reading it.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, because you always hear about the things that will go wrong, right? We're one of those things, or I feel like one of those areas where we always hear about it if there's something we could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
When things go smoothly, like it goes smoothly and everything's great. But man, when they don't, it's how you learn. You learn a lot from those sort of situations.
Those crisis situations, of course, like they're difficult to deal with for the school and whatever's going on, but it's actually a great moment that I see, like with our teams working together. There's a lot of collaboration that's happening with the superintendents and the directors here, and then along with the principals or the school staff. And so I really enjoy like being able to be that resource and being able to help while the school is kind of dealing with an issue like right there in real time. Like we're here to be able to offer those resources as far as like getting out messaging to families in like a very timely manner as soon as we can with accurate information, and just being like a phone call away for the staff, so like they don't feel like they're just left on their own. Like we're here to help and we're happy to help. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if I'm a family member out there and I want to make sure that I'm taking advantage of all the communication channels the district has, what's the best way to go about that?
Making sure your information is right in Power School, because
that's been a huge focus of ours this
Yes.
year, is trying to get updated contact information for folks.
Yeah, and families can log in and change that themselves. But if they have any issues with that, they can get a hold of their school front office and they can help you with that. But that's most of our systems pull from what we get in Power School. So if you for sure want to like be getting things from us in a timely manner, making sure your email and your phone number and your mailing address are right will go a long ways towards that.
Mm-hmm.
We have some more channels though.
Yeah, so we always, if there's emergency communication as far as like weather, we do try to post that also on Facebook, and then the website's going to be updated as well. So yeah, there's several different platforms and methods that we use to update families just to make sure that they're getting it as soon as they can and that it's accurate information. That we also share it with our media contacts as well. So there's many ways that we're trying to get information out to our families to make sure they're updated.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this year we did a big launch with Parent Square. And so I would recommend families download the Parent Square app and engage with their school and their school community through Parent Square.
Yeah, but the Parent Square app is a great way to be able to set like your notifications. So if you're getting too many notifications and you want to simplify them, you can do that really easily through the app. So the app is a great way to manage that too.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because oftentimes some people are like, oh, I missed the communication, but they have some kind of delayed notification response that, they'll get it at the end of the day rather than immediately. And so just make sure that you're checking your notifications and tailoring them to best fit your lifestyle. So Rebecca, what's been one of the favorite projects you've gotten to work on at the school district throughout your tenure here? This is off script, so I'm stumping Rebecca here. I
know, and I always talk about how like I work on stuff and then it's like I wipe my brain clean and I move on to the next one. Something that sticks in my mind. It was actually when it was one of the first things I worked on. Like it would have been the first year or two I was here, and maybe it's because it was kind of the first. It's in my memories, maybe one of the first things that was kind of completely my project that I did from start to finish, but it was around. Like Elizabeth Pradovich. And so she's a really important Alaska Native figure that advocated for equal rights. And as part of her day of recognition, basically I went around, she had a speech that she gave. And so I went to different schools, and the students recited her speech. So like I had second graders saying it and stumbling over their words, and then I had high schoolers doing it, and so it was a bunch of different students, and then I made like a little montage of her, basically the entirety of her speech, but like a few seconds from every student saying it, and it was just really cool to see all these different students, like to make this video, then have all these different students like show our district and this really important person who had a big impact on our state. And it was the first time I think I sort of did it from start to finish, complete project that was mine. And even though I'm not, like Josh is a great video and photography person, like I do okay, but I was really happy with how that video turned out. And that was one of the first ones that that comes to mind is just like a fun thing.
Mhm.
Like I feel like often now the stuff I'm working on is like they're
Not so
important
fun.
things.
It's all fun, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, it's all just
Big smile
dandy.
there.
Like our school consolidation has been
Yeah,
a big
I mean,
focus
that's
this year,
Mhm.
so that's been took a lot of my time. But even with that, like that's a really tough topic. It has a big impact on our community. But the part that's fun about it, if you can say that, is
or fulfilling, right?
it's the teamwork of it. So
Yes.
like the executive team is full of great people, and we all work together, I feel like, really well. And so when we have those huge things that the district is tackling, it hits all the different parts of the school district. That means that all of us have to work together to make
Mhm.
sure all our areas are in sync and that we're thinking of the impacts of everything. And so when we have those big important projects, that is meaningful, and that takes a lot of work, but it also takes a lot of work with people who are really great to work with.
Mhm.
And I do enjoy that part of it, even if it's not a super fun topic all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Josh has a lot more fun projects. I think.
Yeah, I feel like I do have a lot more fun projects. I love going out to the schools, and it's nice to not be here at the ADC building all the time. So I get to go out and kind of travel to the different schools and capturing different events. I mean, I feel like the podcast here is one of my favorite projects. It's a fun thing that we just started up a couple years ago, and it's a great, just another way to communicate to our families. There's many ways, and I feel like this is just one other way that we're trying to reach out to our families to make sure they're staying up to date with what's going on, but also kind of learning a little bit more about the people behind the scenes. So I feel like, yeah, just producing this podcast has been a great opportunity, and it's a fun project for me to do. We're trying to get them out at least 2 a month. That's usually the goal. And we've done pretty well with that, actually. So this podcast is one. And then just going to the video stuff, like I love just filming videos. And like Rebecca said earlier with her, things that she enjoys is just telling stories. And so video is a great way to tell those stories. And it could be just a 30-second video, but it could be several minutes. A lot of the projects that I really enjoy are working with video and video storytelling. And some of them notable ones would be like working with Denali Elementary School. They had won a national award, and so they needed to produce like a 2-minute video, just kind of sharing about their school, kind of the characteristics about their school, the demographic of students that they have, and just hearing like directly from their principal about her sharing from the school, the great things that happen there. That's kind of one of my favorite projects as well. Just to kind of help communicate out like these great things that are happening in the district in kind of a video format. And then one other one that I just recently did was with a Northwell High JRTC student, and it was just a really quick 30-second video, but he is part of the Northwell High JRTC program, and I'm hoping he'll be on the podcast here soon. But he's part of the color guard drill team, and so he practices throwing the rifle around and has been in several like state and national competitions. And so we did just a quick 30-second video, put some slow motion on it, and it's just amazing video of him just throwing the rifle around, twisting around, and it's like he must have just spent like thousands of hours learning how to do that. And so it's really impressive, and I really enjoy finding those stories with his story, learning the skills that it takes to throw that rifle around like he does and win competitions. But there's many of those stories around our district. Like there's amazing things that are happening. And so for me, it's fun to kind of find those little interesting things that are happening and really try to highlight the successes that our students are seeing, and our staff as well. We have a lot of amazing district teachers and staff. And so for me, just be able to go and capture the little nuggets that are around, that's a pretty fun thing for me to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to both of you. I know you weren't super excited about coming in on the
We
podcast.
like being behind the
but
camera.
Yeah,
I know.
we're on the wrong side of the camera
Yeah,
right
what's
now.
going on
Not
here?
as scary as it seems, right? You guys did great, and you do great day in and day out. I just appreciate all the work that you do on behalf of the school district and our students. And this podcast has been really fulfilling. So loved Josh's willingness to help me through this project. I think it is a great alternative way, kind of a long form of communication to provide a different look at our school district. And so thanks for going on that journey with me. But this is another edition of the Alaska EdVenture podcast, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.